Hi,
Hello, Shadows. Welcome back.
welcome to my episode today. I am talking about the 2016 Dallas shooting, and me and Kirsten were actually just talking that I didn't know about this case and what we were doing in 2016, so I had to think
Well,
about it.
yeah, I don't know that I remember hearing about this. Maybe once I hear details, I'll
Yeah,
remember some, but off the top of my head, I don't remember.
you're what some of the background in here with some other cases that you definitely will know that kind of like leads up to
Okay.
this happening. You're gonna recognize those whether you recognize this whole case or not, for sure. But and I think a lot of people listening will too. But yeah, I had just moved down south at this time, so I was probably just too occupied with other things
Yeah,
than the news,
yeah.
honestly.
Trying to start your new life.
So yeah. So let's get her started. Today, I will be talking about Micah Xavier Johnson, who was born on July 2nd, 1991, in McGee, Mississippi. His parents divorced when he was 4 years old, and he was then moved to Mesquite, Texas. This is where he eventually attended John Horn High School when he was 17. He attended the junior ROTC program that was offered in this high school. He graduated in 2009 with a class of 450 students.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, ours was around that,
Ours is
right?
over 500.
Over
Hmm.
500, that's right, yeah. So kind of close, but yeah. He did struggle academically, graduating with a 1.98 GPA. Hmm, yeah. 2 years after graduating, he enrolled in classes at Richland College in Dallas, but he did not complete these classes. Where he attended college, that also gave him access to El Centro College, which is where this shooting occurs, specifically in Building B. Right out of high school, Johnson enlisted in the Army Reserve. He served from March 2009 to April 2015 as a carpentry and masonry specialist. It was reported by a classmate he later ser- It was reported by a classmate. classmate.
Classmate.
don't, don't ask me where that came from. Okay. It was reported by a classmate he later served with Johnson that he lacked proficient skills as a marksman when handling an M16 during basic training. A squad leader who helped do some training with Johnson during the early days of his military career said he was klutzy and goofy, but a nice guy who did not show a lot of motivation. Others who knew him in the army said he was openly religious and liked to socialize sometimes, but was also a loner. You could sometimes find Johnson eating his lunch alone in a vehicle while others sat
It's
together.
kind of sad.
Yeah, but I mean, I kind of get it too. People
Yeah.
suck. I mean, you remember me in high school.
Yeah.
Like, yep,
There
sitting
was
alone, my
me,
guy.
Steph, and a girl named Joanna that sat together.
Yep, and then I eventually joined you
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, good old high school. In September 2013, Johnson was active duty in support of the war in Afghanistan. He was with the 420th Engineer Brigade when he was deployed from November 2013 to July 2014. On May 1st, 2014, a female soldier that had been friends with Johnson for 5 years reported Johnson for sexual harassment. Allegedly, 4 pairs of the female's underwear had gone missing out of her laundry bag. So, an Inspection was done of the soldiers' rooms, where one pair was found in Johnson's quarters and the other 3 pair were in his pocket.
What? That's creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. Cringy, right? He tried to say that another friend gave them to him, but the female soldier confirmed that the panties were hers. She described their relationship as tumultuous, with a lot of fights and disagreements. One incident between them where Johnson punched out a car window, severing an artery, all because she had told him she would be going to college. Johnson had contacted this female on Facebook, making suggestive comments about rape and asking for a pair of her underwear before the stealing incident. She told him to stop contacting her, and she did not report him because, as females, we deal with this shit all the time, unfortunately. After all these incidents, she was seeking a protective order against Johnson. She also said he needs professional help.
Yeah.
The underwear stealing, according to the... Yeah. I mean, if, like, even though this is, like, the only incident right now, I mean, the Army, you'll see how they handle this whole thing, but, like, it could have been handled differently. The underwear stealing, according to the Army, did not qualify as sexual harassment. However, the Facebook messages did. Johnson was on a 24-hour escort after the incident, which is apparently embarrassing for the soldier as punishment,
I'm sure
I guess.
it is.
And, yeah. And they also took any weapons he had. On May 3rd, he was then transferred to Bagram Airfield. I may have said that wrong. He was unable to pack up before moving, so while other soldiers packed his belongings, they found a 40-millimeter grenade, a 50 caliber bullet, and another soldier's medication. Not long after these discoveries, Johnson was sent back to Dallas with representation by a military lawyer, Bradford Glendering. Yes, Bradford Glendering. The Army was recommending a other than honorable discharge. His lawyer instead advised Johnson to waive his rights to a hearing in exchange for a general discharge. Johnson was honorably discharged in September 2014, but someone did not put this information correctly in the database, so Johnson stayed active in the military until April of 2015. Johnson did receive a few medals for his tour in Afghanistan. These medals include Afghanistan Campaign Medal with Campaign Star, Army Achievement Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Armed Forces Reserve Medal, and the NATO Medal. After returning to the States, Johnson found a hobby in going to the range after his attack and... Oh, go back. Oh, I didn't know what I was trying to say. After returning to the States, Johnson found a hobby in going to the range. And after this incident, and looking into his social medias, we find that Johnson liked several groups on Facebook, like the new Black Panther Party, Nation of Islam, and the Black Riders Liberation Party. Friends reported that Johnson expressed hate towards police officers, specifically white officers. Johnson watched the Rodney King video many times, getting angry over police brutality towards Black people.
Understandable.
There were also mixed reports whether or not he was part of any of these groups, specifically the Black Panthers. But his views were very contradictory, honestly. He was also reported saying he wanted to kill Black pastors because all they wanted was money and didn't care about God.
Okay.
His digital footprint showed he visited sites that were far left radical black nationalism groups, but on the other end, he showed interest in the African American Defense League, which is more for violence against police. The leader of this group actually called for the murder of police after the Laquan McDonald's murder in 2014. Johnson was also not afraid of posting on Facebook about his views. He shared posts, photos of flags, and him with certain hand gestures, clearly stating what he is representing. In an interview with Johnson's mother, she said he used to be extroverted and patriotic, even expressing being a police officer. But after he was discharged, he became reclusive and angry at the government for what happened to him. He was able to keep some jobs. He worked at Jimmy John's, a food quality plant, and before his death, he was uh, an in home caregiver to his disabled brother. Both the brothers were living with their mother in Dallas together. Johnson had no criminal background. I did find an incident reported where Johnson entered the police station distraught, pacing back and forth, stating he had nowhere to go, and police offered to call him some help. He denied the help because he claimed to not be a threat to himself or others. After his discharge from the Army, he was given a mental health evaluation, which was released in 2016 after the shooting. Johnson showed symptoms of PTSD, however, he did not show any threat to anyone else, so this diagnosis was untreated. He displayed symptoms of anxiety, depression, and some hallucinations. He suffered from nightmares stemming from his deployment in Afghanistan. He also claimed to hear soldiers crying and the sound of mortars
Why would they
exploding.
not treat these symptoms?
I don't know. I didn't find any information of like who is who. I couldn't even find. I would imagine this is a military uh, evaluation, like their doctor or whoever. Do you know what I mean? So what are they doing? I mean, who are you hiring
Like,
here?
yeah, he might not be a threat to others, but he's hearing things.
Yeah, like he obviously is not
Right.
mentally okay right
And
now.
he might eventually become a threat to others because of that.
Yeah, why are we at least
Yeah.
not treating this? The healthcare system, it runs deep in this in America, all the way to the military system.
Maybe this event could have been prevented had someone helped him.
I honestly think a lot of these, that's the case for a lot of people who just
Mm-hmm.
snap and do things.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would have several panic attacks a week. He was on medication for depression, anxiety, and sleep. He was prescribed a muscle relaxant for lower back pain he had. In June of 2016, Johnson offered to be security for Reverend Peter Johnson, who was speaking at an anti Trump rally, but the Reverend declined due to the fact that Johnson wanted to bring a gun with him. Johnson continued practicing any skills he learned in the Army in his backyard. The neighbors reported Johnson ran his own drills and practiced. He also took extra self defense courses. In 2014, he trained in a private school that focused on teaching tactics such as shooting on the move. However, the owner stated Johnson only participated in the self defense courses. There were two different reports on the weapon Johnson used in this attack, but most news reports state he had an SKS, but also officials who are familiar with the weapon reported Johnson using I'm going to butcher this, Ismash Saga
Never
545,
heard of
which is
it.
it is a type of an AK-74. There was evidence he purchased an AK-74 from a guy who came forward after the incident. He also carried 2 handguns, a Glock 19 and a Frazier 25 caliber. He also had body armor that he wore with hard plates. There were multiple motives Johnson had to attack the Dallas police, but the main ones a lot of people think were the killings of uh, Alton Sterling and Philando Castillo. Sorry. Alton. So I'm going to tell you these two stories of these gentlemen. Alton Sterling was born June 14th, 1979. He was known in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to the locals as the CD Man. And that's what he was doing on the night of July 5th, 2016. He was selling the CDs in a Food Mart parking lot at around 12:35 a.m. Police were called to a disturbance with a man threatening someone with a gun in the parking lot. The police officers to respond were Howie Lake II and Blame Salamoni. Both officers had at least 3 years of experience. When officers arrived, Sterling refused several times to cooperate, so they tased him. They wrestled him from the hood of a car down to the ground. While they are trying to secure Sterling's arm, one officer is on his thighs with the other across his chest. Sterling's right hand was still free when Salamoni can be heard saying, "He's going into his pocket. He's got a gun. Gun. Hey, bro, if you fucking move, I swear to God." Lake, he's going for a gun. And then you see Salamoni fire 3 shots point blank into Sterling. The camera then pans away and 3 more shots are heard.
6 shots?
The camera comes 6 shots.
Seems a little excessive.
If you saw the video and stuff, do you remember this case?
I don't think so.
You don't? I remember this case. I remember seeing the video too of him being wrestled to the ground.
Maybe I did, but
you'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know.
The camera comes back to the scene where Lake is gone and Salamoni is about 3 feet from Sterling's sprawled out body with his gun drawn and pointed at him. Sterling was shot a total of 6 times. The loaded .38 was found in his pants pocket. A group called Stop the Killing caught everything on camera, including body cam footage and several bystanders' cell phones footage.
Good.
The owner of the Food Mart reported Sterling had recently started carrying because other robberies in the area were occurring, and he also stated Sterling was not the one causing issues.
I was just going to say, so what exactly was going on that police were trying to tase him and arrest him?
They were just saying that there was a disturbance in the parking lot, and when they showed up, he wouldn't cooperate with them, so they automatically
just assumed it was this random man.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Salamoni was allowed to resign and faced no criminal charges for this crime. The family of Sterling received a $4.5 million wrongful death settlement in 2021.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yes.
I mean, you're allowed to resign without any consequence?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the next one is even more infuriating, and I know you know this case. You have to know this case. Maybe not. Nah, maybe not. Okay, so now, the Philando Castile is who I am going to talk about next, and you should know this case, because this one was pretty popular as well in 2016. Which it's crazy because I remember these 2 cases, but I don't remember this Dallas shooting case. So. Philando Castile was born July 16th, 1983 in St. Louis, Missouri. He lived in Robbinsdale, Minnesota, where he worked at a local elementary school as a nutrition services assistant, and he later got promoted as supervisor.
Nice.
Yeah, Castile had only minor traffic stops in his record, but nothing significant. On July 6th, 2016, Officer Jerem- Jeronimo Yanez, or Jeronimo Yanez, pulled over Castile for a broken brake light. Joseph Kauser was also there as Yanez's partner. Both officers had 4 years of service at this time. Castile was in his vehicle with his girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, and her 4-year-old daughter. They were pulled over in a suburban area on Larpenteur Avenue at around 9:05 p.m. They were returning home after running some errands that day. Yanez was the officer to approach the driver's side where Castile was. From the time Yanez reached the window to when he began firing at Castile was only 40 seconds.
What for a
Yanez
brake light?
asked
Why
for
does he have his
license
gun out?
because Castile lets him know that he has a gun in the car.
So that means he needs to shoot him?
And I mean, that's what pretty much how it
Isn't
went.
this Texas?
Well, that's where the Dallas shooting is right now.
Oh,
We're in
Missouri.
Missouri
Okay. I was going to say, everyone in Texas has a gun.
or Minnesota.
Okay.
No, we're in Minnesota, I believe.
Minnesota. Okay.
He was born in Missouri, working in Minnesota. I believe he was pulled over then in Minnesota. Okay. Yanez asked for license and insurance, which Castillo handed over, and he stated to Yanez, "Sir, I want to inform you that I have a firearm on me," which Yanez replies, "Okay, don't pull it out," while placing his hands on his pistol, which was in his holster.
Mm-hmm.
Yanez is placing his hand on his gun. Castile and Reynolds both say no, he's not pulling it out. This went back and forth about 2 more times as Yanez quickly escalated to firing 7 shots into the front driver's seat. 7. With a 4-year-old behind
Oh
him.
my God.
Castile moaned, "I wasn't reaching for it," while Reynolds screamed, "You just killed my boyfriend." 5 of the 7 shots hit Castile at point-blank range. Reynolds at this point began a 10-minute-long Facebook Live video showing Castile dying in the front seat of the car. Do you remember that video?
It does sound familiar. I don't know if I actually saw it or not.
I saw that video. Castile was licensed to carry a gun and had done nothing wrong. They also continued pointing a gun at him and not giving him medical attention while he slumped there dying.
That's insane.
He was just shot 5 times, and you're not even going to give him medical attention. Yeah. They handcuffed Reynolds and placed her and her daughter in the back of a car and took her into custody.
For what?
I don't know.
For being victims of a shooting?
Yeah. So, I'm going to read this cowardly statement from Yanez. Here we go. "I thought I was going to die, and I thought if he has the gun and the audacity to smoke marijuana in front of the 5-year-old girl and risk her lungs and risk her life by giving her secondhand smoke, and the front seat passenger doing the same thing, then what care does he give about me?"
Was there even proof that he was smoking?
I think he made a statement that he smelled it, but I didn't find because I was just given synopsises, so I didn't go into super great detail into these, so I don't know if they found marijuana or whatever in the car.
Well, that smells like your clothes. They could have smoked 2 or 3 hours ago.
Yeah, so I never knew marijuana to be a reason to shoot somebody.
Yeah, I'm a little confused how any of that correlates together.
So this case of second-degree manslaughter against Yanez did go to court, claiming the defense of fearing for his life, even stating later that he could see the gun in Castile's pocket when it was actually out. He claims that he could see the gun out of Castile's pocket when it was actually found in his pocket by EMS. The trials began May 30th, 2017. After 25 hours of deliberation with a 12-member jury, the verdict came back as an acquittal. He received almost $50,000 from separation agreement he had with the city to leave his position. And that was it for him. Yeah.
Slap on the wrist.
Literally. Not even, like, barely yelled at him.
Where's his prison time?
Nowhere. Yeah.
That's wild.
These two murders of black men by police officers triggered the nation into protests for Black Lives Matter. So that was this. This is when this triggered everything. Chants like "Hands Up, Don't Shoot" being a popular one. Dallas was one of the multiple locations in the U.S. gathering for protesting on the night of July 7th. In Dallas, around 800 protesters showed up, and the city assigned 100 officers to monitor that night. Also, around 25 open-carry activists joined the march wearing combat uniforms, gas masks, and other gear. Around 7 p.m., the peaceful protest began, marching down Main Street just before 9 p.m. Johnson pulled up onto Lamar Street in front of El Centro College campus, Building A. Main Street, where the protests connects south of Lamar Street. So we can, I think I have a diagram. They kind of like lay it out, because of the streets and how it is. But they're all connected kind of in a college campus roadway type thing, The shooting is mostly in the college campus area. He parked his SUV sideways with the four ways on. And this is calm, cool, and collected. He put on his armored vest and grabbed his weapons. He then headed towards the police barricade on Main Street for the protesters. At this point, the protest was walking down when the first shots were fired at 8:57 p.m. The sound of gunfire quickly spread confusion. Let me back up. The sound of gunfire quickly sparked confusion when the sound echoed off of the buildings, making locating the shooter really difficult. So imagine you're in a downtown city and you got well, they weren't quite skyscrapers, but huge buildings, and there's just gunfire echoing down an empty street. I'm
sure it was chaos.
Yeah, and shocking, I'm sure. In the confusion, Dallas police officers tried to change their position to block the intersection, unknowingly opening themselves up to Johnson's initial gunfire. So, within the confusion, like you said, the chaos, they're where is it coming from? And, kind of like a 50-50 shot of getting out of the way, and they picked the wrong one. Officer Michael Kroll, Senior Corporal Lorne Ahrens, and Officer Patrick Zamaripa I'm so terrible at names, I apologize, were all killed in the gunfire. 3 more officers and 2 civilians were injured as well. Officers Jorge Barrientos, Gretchen Roca, Senior Corporal Ivan Saldana, Billy Ray Williams, and Shatamia Taylor were all the ones that were injured. Other officers began loading those who were shot and drove them to help while radioing in the incident. It is now 9:01 p.m., so 4 minutes have passed. And Johnson, so I'm going to take you down a timeline how quickly this all unfolds. And because it's just crazy, because I mean, he has all this military background and training, so like he just went in there and did his thing. So it's 9:01 p.m. and Johnson has turned around, heading back north on Lamar Street. From the west, DART officers began closing in towards Johnson, who opened fire on them. Officers Misty McBride, Lee Cannon, and Sergeant Giovanni Wells were all hit while running for cover from Johnson. He then tried to enter the college building by shooting out the glass doors. Campus officers Brian Shaw and John Abbott were there firing at Johnson, keeping him from entering. They were both injured in this exchange, and Johnson moved down Lamar Street, hiding behind concrete pillars. The next event I'm going to describe was caught on video by someone near the rooftop of a hotel looking down. They also capture an example of the training and the different tactics that Johnson had pretty much learned. As he headed down Lamar, Officer Brent Thompson was covered behind a concrete pillar. Johnson fired to the left of the pillar, getting Thompson's attention in that direction, long enough for him to come around the back and shoot Johnson in the back. Johnson continued firing multiple times as Thompson lay on the ground. He then turned and went down Elm Street, where he was able to enter the college. So he just executed and he moved on. Like, he's on a mission. Like, he was not stopping.
So he's trying to shoot college students too, not just police officers?
No, this is he's mainly focused on police officers. Yeah, he was taking out as many police officers as he could was his main goal. He was searching for a better vantage point out of a window in Building B now, leaving a blood trail behind because he is injured at this point. He took the stairs to the second floor, through the library, and down the hall to a window that looked over Elm Street. Johnson took aim at Sergeant Michael Smith, who was posted by the 7-Eleven that he could see from his vantage point, and he shot and killed him. Officer Jesus Ritana was hit in the arm as well. It is now 9:15 p.m. So we are 18 minutes in. And officers had entered the building with the intentions to corner Johnson down the hall. SWAT at this point has also surrounded the area. This is when a several-hour negotiation started with Johnson. He stated he wanted to kill white officers and that he was, and that was the statement he stuck to. You know, like he, in various ways, that was, you know, his main point he was getting across. He wanted to only talk to a black officer. He also shouted black supremacy, black liberation. Johnson eventually no longer wanted to negotiate and opened fire where 200 rounds were exchanged with officers. So you have to picture, now Johnson is down a hallway. He's tucked himself behind a wall 30 feet down this hallway so that they couldn't get to him. So they're just like at a stalemate because it's just open. Mm-hmm. It's just an open hallway. They can't just like, he's going to shoot him. They can't go down there. A quote from Johnson from the negotiation videos released in 2021, quote, the talking is over. It's time for a revolution, brother. If you are my brother, turn your weapon on those behind you, end quote. This statement was directed towards Sergeant Gordon, who explained to Johnson that he was black. He was an officer that was trying to negotiate with him, and he said, I am black. Even though Johnson was saying some out-of-pocket shit during the 2-hour negotiation, he was also remained in control and lucid, honestly. He did make claims of planting bombs around the city, but no bombs were ever discovered. Senior Corporal Baines eventually decided they could no longer wait him out and started considering what other options they had. They did consider getting someone to take him out with a 50 caliber or even rappelling down the building to get to Johnson, but the risk of these solutions was too high in the busy college area. The officers put their heads together and decided when they were going what they were going to do is to send in a bomb disposal remote control car with a pound of C4 explosives strapped to the top of it. So it's a little remote car. At 2:30 a.m., they executed this plan, detonating the explosive when the remote car was close enough to Johnson. This killed him immediately. Johnson was found to have all his weapons, additional magazines, and a bag of supplies with him. The following day, Johnson's mother's home, where he was staying, was searched, and they found some bomb-making material, 2 more rifles, an abundance of ammunition, and a personal journal containing a lot of tactical information and shooting techniques. But there was also a lot of rambling by Johnson in his journal that didn't make any sense. They also looked through Johnson's cell phone, laptops, and any other journals that he had. There was over 170 hours of video footage from the 90 cameras, including body cam footage from the officers from this incident. A lot of these cameras were part of the surveillance system installed in downtown Dallas to help reduce crime. They also interviewed around 300 witnesses. Now, I want you to, now every case is horrible, but notice how much effort they put in when it's their brethren. Yeah. There were 2 different reports I found about the bomb-making supplies. One stated he had a massive amount of bomb-making materials to do significant damage, and another article stated that he had only basic materials and nothing significant as far as bomb-making goes, but he had something. During the investigation of the area, the Federal Aviation Administration put out a flight restriction of any personal aircrafts, and this allowed police aircrafts in the air to help from that higher vantage point to look down on everything for the investigation. The college was, of course, closed for investigation, and the explosion that killed Johnson took out the school's internet server. So they partially opened on July 20th, but the A, B, and C buildings remained closed for federal investigation. Initially, they believed 2 or more snipers were responsible for this attack. They detained 2 suspects that night of the shooting who were carrying their gear, fleeing Lamar Street, but they were just protesters who were out that night for the protest, and they were one of the armed civilians that were there that night. There was a 3rd man that became a suspect whose photo made it to social media because he was carrying an AR and wearing a camo shirt at the protest. He did turn himself in and was released after being questioned. The Dallas Police Association's president at the time, Mike Mehta, received a lot of criticism for the choices that he made about the police protection during the protests. First, he did not want any... First, he did not want any of the police to look too, quote-unquote, military or aggressive that night. So instead of them wearing military-grade bulletproof vests to the protest that night, the officers wore standard Kevlar vests. Most of the shots to the officers were to their chest and abdomen, which that's honestly his training, which would have been protected if they had proper gear on. Also, most of the officers had no long rifles to protect themselves. because, again, they didn't want him to seem too military, so they were only carrying pistols, I do believe. Also, most of the officers had. I just read that. Jesus criminy. What's wrong with me today, Kirsten? They had no long rifles on them. A quote from Meta from a local news interview. Quote, a lot of those shots and a lot of those wounds were chest shots, lower abdomen wounds, and those heavy vests would have covered them. Like, he admitted it, but, you know. Only a week after the shooting, the U.S. Army opened a detailed investigation into Johnson's honorable discharge. The reason they opened this investigation was to see if anything was missed in the original investigation of the sexual harassment that led to his discharge in the first place. What they discovered was a lot of information was not reported in the investigation. After their full investigation, they released everything to the public. No new evidence was released, and they stood behind their discharge. Over $800,000 in overtime was put in by the local police departments to help with the investigation. There was also a significant increase in job applications for the Dallas Police Department. They were struggling to recruit new officers before this event. After, they were aiming to hire 550 new officers by the end of 2017.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Of course, there were a lot of mixed reactions to police using explosives to take down Johnson, but majority thought it was justified. This was the first time in United States history this type of lethal force was used by police. A lot of politicians had a lot to say about better gun control after the incident, including President Obama. There were multiple vigils held throughout Dallas for the victims. Thanksgiving Square in downtown Dallas was where Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings attended. On July 12th, George Bush and Obama spoke at Morton H. Myerson's Symphony Center, where a vigil was held for the officers. I wanted to end with a little information on the 5 officers that were killed that day. So, Senior Corporal Lorne Ahrens was 48 years old and had been an officer since 1991. He served for the Dallas Police Department since 2002. Officer Michael Kroll was 40 years old and served with the Dallas Police Department for 13 years. Sergeant Michael Smith was 55 years old, a former Army Ranger and had been with the Dallas Police Department since 1989. That's a 27 years service with the police department. Officer Brent Thompson was 43 years old, a former Marine, and had been with the Dallas Police Department since 2007. Officer Patrick Zamaripa was 32 years old, a former sailor with a deployment to the Iraq War. He was with the Dallas Police Department since 2010. And this was the deadliest attack on officers since the 9/11 attacks. All autopsies, ballistics, and transcripts of the negotiation actually remain sealed to this day.
I wonder if they'll ever unseal it.
2000. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like lost its spark now, you know, but I don't know. I still do feel like the Army could have handled it better. I think he could have got proper help. And I think his hobby then could have been turned into something more positive than something deadly. Yeah.
But also, if there wasn't so much unwarranted police brutality, it would not have led him to this either.
Amen, sister. You're right. He got angry, and
you can't blame him.
You know?
I mean, did he handle it how he should have? No. But yeah, you can't blame him.
No, I can't blame him at all, actually. But you have to look up those two cases that just to refresh your memory, because I know once you look them up, you're gonna be like, oh
probably.
yes, those. Which guys, everybody be shocked. I remembered something about a case that Kirsten didn't remember. This day's going to go down in history. So, I think that's it for me. So make like a shadow and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Lurking in the Shadows podcast.
Check us out on TikTok.
Lurking in the Shadows pod.
And any questions, concerns, or case suggestions, shoot us a Gmail
Lurking in the Shadows podcast at gmail.com. And keep lurking around for our next episode. Bye.